Mount Pinatubo is a volcano located in western Luzon, Philippines. It erupted in 1991, marking its first eruption in 600 years. The eruption of Mount Pinatubo is considered one of the largest volcanic eruptions of the 20th century and caused widespread devastation in the surrounding area. Before the eruption, Mount Pinatubo stood at a height of about 4,800 feet. It was relatively obscured from view as it was only about 600 feet above nearby plains and 200 feet higher than surrounding peaks. The eruption resulted in high-speed avalanches of pyroclastic flows and a massive cloud of volcanic ash that spread hundreds of miles across the region. Prior to 1991, Mount Pinatubo was an unremarkable and heavily eroded mountain covered in dense forest. The forest supported a population of several thousand indigenous people called the Aeta, who were hunter-gatherers and had adapted to surviving in the dense jungles. The eruption of Mount Pinatubo on June 15, 1991, is considered the largest volcanic eruption to occur in the past 100 years in a densely populated area. The eruption released bursts of gas-charged magma, creating umbrella ash clouds, hot flows of gas and ash that descended the volcano's flanks, and lahars, mudflows, that swept down valleys. The last eruption of Mount Pinatubo before 1991 occurred at least 600 years earlier. The eruption in 1991 was the first eruption of Mount Pinatubo in 6 centuries, making it a significant event in the volcano's history. The 1991 eruption of Mount Pinatubo had significant effects on the surrounding areas. Here are some of the impacts. 1. Widespread ashfall. The eruption released a massive cloud of volcanic ash that blanketed the countryside. The ashfall caused damage to infrastructure, disrupted transportation, and affected agriculture. 2. Damage and casualties. The eruption resulted in pyroclastic flows, lahars, mudflows, and ashfall hazards. These natural phenomena caused damage to buildings, infrastructure, and crops. There were casualties and injuries reported due to the eruption. 3. Displacement of people. The eruption forced the evacuation of thousands of people living near the volcano. Many communities had to be relocated to safer areas due to the volcanic activity and the risks associated with it. 4. Environmental impact. The eruption caused significant environmental damage. The ash and volcanic materials affected ecosystems, including forests, rivers, and aquatic life. The lahars and ashfall also impacted the agricultural sector, damaging crops and disrupting livelihoods. 5. Climate effects. The eruption of Mount Pinatubo had a global impact on climate. The release of volcanic gases and aerosols into the atmosphere led to a cooling effect on the Earth's surface. This resulted in a temporary reduction in net radiation and a cooling of the northern hemisphere by up to 0.5 to 0.6 degrees Celsius. The pyroclastic flows and lahars from the 1991 Mount Pinatubo eruption caused significant hazards. Here are some of the hazards associated with these volcanic phenomena. 1. Pyroclastic flows. Pyroclastic flows are high-density mixtures of hot, fragmented solids and expanding gases. They are ejected by violent volcanic eruptions. The hazards of pyroclastic flows include extreme heat. Pyroclastic flows can reach temperatures of several hundred degrees Celsius, posing a severe risk to anything in their path. High speed. Pyroclastic flows can move at incredibly high speeds, reaching velocities of up to 100 km/h, 60 miles per hour. Destruction. Pyroclastic flows can destroy everything in their path, including buildings, vegetation, and infrastructure. Suffocation. The hot gases and ash in pyroclastic flows can cause asphyxiation and suffocation. 2. Lahars. Lahars are mud flows that occur when volcanic ash and debris mix with water, either from rainfall or melted ice and snow. The hazards of lahars include rapid movement. Lahars can flow down valleys and river channels at high speeds, carrying large amounts of volcanic debris. Destructive force. Lahars can erode riverbanks, destroy bridges, and bury communities in mud and debris. Long-distance reach. Lahars can travel long distances from the volcano, posing a hazard to areas far beyond the eruption site. These hazards resulted in significant damage and casualties during the 1991 Mount Pinatubo eruption, including the destruction of infrastructure, loss of lives, and displacement of communities. Volcanic eruptions, including the production of pyroclastic flows and lahars, can be challenging to predict with absolute certainty. However, scientists use various monitoring techniques to assess volcanic activity and make predictions to mitigate the risks. Here are some methods used in volcanic monitoring and eruption prediction. 1. Seismic monitoring. Volcanoes are monitored for seismic activity using seismometers. Changes in seismicity, such as increased frequency or amplitude of volcanic earthquakes, can indicate rising magma and potential eruption. 2. Ground deformation. Scientists use instruments like GPS and tiltmeters to measure ground deformation caused by magma movement beneath the volcano. Significant changes in ground deformation can suggest an impending eruption. 3. Gas emissions. Monitoring the composition and volume of gases emitted by a volcano can provide valuable information about its activity. Changes in gas emissions, such as an increase in sulfur dioxide SO2 or carbon dioxide CO2, can indicate rising magma and potential eruption. 4. Thermal monitoring. Infrared cameras and satellite imagery are used to detect changes in the temperature of a volcano. An increase in volcanic heat can suggest magma movement.